Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word, and for the first time in what feels like forever, to some garage gossip. And today I'm talking about the big confirmed changes coming to the AlphaTauri team in 2024, as well as some other changes we might see specifically around their driver lineup. And yes, I know some of this news has been out for a couple of days now, but it fell awkwardly for me with the preview and F1 Manager videos being priority. But I wanted to take some time to just waffle a little bit today. But also, it has been a while since I did a Marko Said Stuff video, so here we are. That could be a series all of its own, couldn't it? So the first confirmed big change coming to AlphaTauri next season is that they won't be called AlphaTauri anymore. Helmut Marko has revealed that the team will instead have a brand new name and new sponsors to coincide with the arrival of Lauren McKees and Peter Bayer. Marko also said the team is set to move closer to Red Bull's design philosophy next year. Of course, as per the rules, the two teams can't directly share data to help them replicate the design, but they can attempt to, I suppose, mimic the concepts of the Red Bull, much like Racing Point did with most of the famous pink Mercedes. On top of all of that, we already know Franz Tost is off as well, so lots of changes for 2024. And given that the team is currently sat at the bottom of the Constructors' Championship with just 2 points from the opening 8 races, coming off the back of an already disappointing 2022, you can see why they feel the need to shake things up a little bit. As for what the new name will be, there haven't been any suggestions as I sit here and record this, but I would personally love to see the Toro Rosso name back on the grid. And yeah, I'll admit part of that is because I would love to see a return to that gorgeous blue livery. That would be a very welcome change. Thinking about it as well, I suppose, if they want to go full-on nostalgia, they could maybe look at bringing back the Minardi name. After all, that was the name of the team when Red Bull picked it up, so maybe that could happen. I doubt it, but you never know. Let me know down in the comment section, though, what name you think they'll go with and what name you'd like to see them use. It'll be really interesting to read some of your suggestions. One other area that we could see some change in is the driver lineup, and Marko has had a few things to say on that as well, perhaps unsurprisingly. Earlier this week, he said that he and Christian Horner had essentially disagreed on the decision to put Nyck de Vries in the car for 2023, and Marko now says, quote, "At the moment it looks like he is right." He, of course, being Christian Horner. That's a big admission at this stage of the season. Must be said, though, nobody seems to be pointing out he did say at this stage, so perhaps some acknowledgement there that there is still time for de Vries to turn it around. When discussing the larger AlphaTauri changes, though, Marko did talk about the lineup, saying that Tsunoda is having a very good season. I agree. And although his performances have been very strong, it's been penalties that have cost him some more very good results. As for de Vries, though, Marko said that they are not satisfied with him and are looking at that as well. So it is looking very possible, as of today, that there could well be a seat opening up at the team for 2024. I will talk about that a little bit more in a moment, but how bad has de Vries actually been so far this season? Let's have a look at the numbers. I will, not for the final time in this video, add the caveat that we have only had 8 races, and so he has got time to turn it around if he is given that time, and acknowledge that the car isn't great, as well as saying that although he has got a lot of racing experience, this is his first full season as a full-time F1 driver. I'm not making excuses for him, I'm just making it clear that I'm aware of all of those factors. Also, I really should say I'm recording this Thursday evening. The video is, all being well, going out straight after Austrian Grand Prix qualifying on Friday, so that result will not be factored into these stats or this discussion, as I'm sadly not able to predict the future. I wish I could. So please bear that in mind if he's just gone and delivered the lap of his life and stuck it on pole or whatever, leaving me looking like a complete and total div, more so than usual. But anyway, to start, he is being well beaten by his teammate in both the qualifying and race battles so far this season. No arguing that at all. And when it comes to scoring points, he, well, hasn't. Alright, fine, Tsunoda has only scored 2 points, but between Bahrain and Miami, he was consistently around the points, finishing 11th, 11th, 10th, 10th, and 11th compared to de Vries, whose best result in that same run of races was P14 in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. His best result of the season so far coming in Monaco, where he finished in P12. His averages after 8 races don't make for great reading either. He is averaging 16th in qualifying compared to 13th for his teammate, and on a Sunday, his average finish is just P15 versus Tsunoda's P12. However, the average gap between the two drivers is only around 2.5 tenths of a second, which, for a driver in his first full season and only 9 F1 races overall, isn't actually all that bad. Although it is quite tight back there this season, so 2 tenths has made quite the difference in terms of grid position at times this year. Is there plenty of room for improvement? Yes, of course there is. But it is not an awful average gap to his teammate, all things considered. I honestly expected the deficit to be much bigger than that. Stats aside, he has also made more than a few mistakes, including several crashes, not all his fault, but they have all still added to the pressure. Baku in particular was a poor weekend for him, crashing in qualifying and in the race. It's not all been doom and gloom though. His Monaco weekend was to date probably his best weekend of the season, where again he finished P12, and he also managed to out-qualify his teammate in Miami and Spain. It might not sound like much, but when you're struggling, those small victories, if you like, are a lot. They're a big boost. The next 4 races are hugely important for De Vries, by the way, especially if he wants to stake a claim for that seat beyond this season. He's raced all 4 tracks many times before, so we can't use the excuse that it's a new track for him. But we've got the summer break coming up as well. So if he is going to start changing people's view at Red Bull, now is the time to do it. The big question is, if he isn't able to turn things around, and if, and despite the comments and rumours, it is still officially, if he gets replaced at the end of the season, who takes that seat? Well, there seems to be, at the moment, for me at least, 3 obvious options and maybe 1 or 2 left field possibilities. Actually, don't forget, both drivers are out of contract at the end of this season, so more than one of these names could make the cut. So first off, Daniel Ricciardo. Sure, he has previously said he doesn't want to come back to F1 just to fight in the midfield, but quite frankly, beggars can't be choosers. His stock took a massive hit last season in particular, and the idea that he can just walk back into a race-winning car seems unlikely unless Sergio Perez massively struggles and Red Bull don't believe Tsunoda, De Vries or another junior are ready for the promotion. So unless that happens, he is going to need to, if he wants to return, rebuild his career and his reputation. And you know, AlphaTauri, or whatever they'll be called next season, might not be a bad place to do that. He keeps a foot in the door at Red Bull, so if he performs and a seat opens up, he could end up back there. But more importantly, I suppose, it is an opportunity, as I say, to rebuild his career and show teams he still has what it takes to compete. He is also a very marketable personality, so if you're switching things up, he could be a great choice to be the face of that relaunch, if you want to call it that. Elsewhere, as I've said many times on stream, Liam Lawson and Ayumu Iwasa are probably the next 2 juniors in line for a promotion to F1. Iwasa is having a good season in F2 with 3 wins on the board and 6 more points finishes. And Lawson is doing well in Super Formula 2 with 2 wins for a total of 7 top 5 finishes from the opening 5 rounds, so don't rule either of those out. I guess it could all kind of depend on what the plan is with Tsunoda as well as the team. Are they going to go back to being a full-on junior team, or will they stick with keeping themselves at, let's say, arm's length to an extent? If it is the former, then Lawson and Iwasa together, as big of a gamble as that may be, would be a good opportunity for Red Bull to assess them with a view to one of them making the move to the main team in the future. If it's the latter, though, it could well be that neither get the opportunity and we end up seeing Ricciardo and Tsunoda together. And do you know what? Thinking about it a little bit more, if you want to rebuild a team that has had a rough couple of years, experience is probably the way to go. We'll see, of course. You could also throw Mick Schumacher into the mix, given he was on their list of potential replacements for Pierre Gasly last year. Maybe, though, the fact he's part of Mercedes now makes that a trickier deal to do, but a driver is always likely to pick a race seat over a reserve one. Don't forget the team were chasing Colton Herta last year as well, so perhaps they'll reignite that interest. Or what about, as a very left field pick that's literally just fallen into my brain, runaway IndyCar leader Alex Palou? Sure, there are McLaren ties there, but that's not a difficult problem to solve, and he does have a super license, so the team wouldn't have that fight on their hands again. Honestly, they might go back in for Herta, but I think Palou is unlikely despite his great season to this point. But I'm not convinced the two of them are options for the team going forward. I think it is far more likely that we're looking at a combination from Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Lawson and Iwasa. And if you want me to make a prediction on who I think it will be, I can only base it off the first 8 races and what we've seen so far and what's been said. I would say it's more likely we're going to see Tsunoda and Ricciardo than, say, Lawson and Iwasa at the team together. Although I'd quite like to see both of those get an opportunity at some point soon. That is obviously all assuming De Vries doesn't turn it around. If he does, then maybe they'll give him another year. To round off all this waffle then, I'm interested to see what name they go with for next season and who the new sponsors will be. Perhaps a different Red Bull drink or maybe something to do with Wings for Life. I'm not sure. Again, we will see. Let me know what you think. But honestly, it's the driver situation that fascinates me the most. Tsunoda has had such a strong start to 2023 really, and he's come a long way from his crash-happy debut season. If he keeps this up, I'd argue it'll be difficult for them to justify not giving him another season. Not that they need to justify their decision, but you know what I mean. And based on what we've seen so far, and working on the assumption he carries on doing that this year, I would absolutely sign him up for another season. As of right now, I do think, though, unfortunately, in many ways, if he does stay, he'll have a new teammate for 2024. Because although, as I'm sure many of you will keep pointing out, and as I've already said in this video, we've got loads of races still to come and he might be able to hit a run of form. Based on those stats I went through earlier and what Marko has recently said, I'm not convinced he'll be kept on regardless of what happens. We have been here before with the Red Bull family, haven't we? And when lines like "we're not satisfied" and "we're looking at that" start getting thrown around, there's generally only one outcome. Right now, though, the focus for him has to be delivering some strong performances and races across the next 4 races, because if he doesn't, the summer break follows, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility the team could replace him before the season resumes at the end of August, perhaps with Ricciardo. I hope, though, whatever happens, De Vries gets the full season, and as I've always said for pretty much every struggling driver, pretty much non-stop for Stoffel Van Dorn, it would be nice to see him really turn things around and keep hold of that seat. After all, I'm a sucker for an underdog and comeback story. And yes, I know before I go that was a lot of waffle and speculation, but it's been a while since I've done this sort of video and it's sometimes nice to just sit and get a few of my thoughts out of my brain and throw them at you guys. There's an image for you. But anyway, that is it for this video then, but don't forget to let me know down in the comments section what you think AlphaTauri will be called next season, and also what do you think the driver lineup will be. Now, I will be back on Sunday with the Austrian Grand Prix reaction stream. In the meantime, though, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like, as it really does help the channel out. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos or streams. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.